To hear this and many more audiobooks in a podcast feed, please visit the first link in the description below. Thank you for your support. The Governance of China, Volume 3, by Xi Jinping. Audiobook, Part 16. Hong Kong, Macao, and China's Peaceful Reunification. Promote development in Hong Kong and Macao as part of China's overall development. Part of the speech at the meeting with delegations of Hong Kong and Macao in celebration of the 40th anniversary of Reform and Opening Up. November 12th, 2018. The third plenary session of the 11th CPC Central Committee, convened in December 1978, marked the start of the reform and opening up initiated by Deng Xiaoping. China has since embarked on a great journey. From the outset, the vitality of Hong Kong and Macao has played a key role. Over the past 40 years, compatriots in the two special administrative regions, SARs, have never failed to play a creative role and have been fully engaged in the process. I know this firsthand. During my tenures in the provinces of Fujian and Zhejiang and in the city of Shanghai, I personally planned for and facilitated a good number of cooperation projects with Hong Kong and Macau. After I started working at the CPC Central Committee in 2007, I was in charge of Hong Kong and Macau affairs and thereby gained a thorough understanding of them. During this time, I made many friends from the two SARs. As I see it, our compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau have mainly played the following roles in reform and opening up. First, a leading role in investment and starting businesses on the mainland. After reform and opening up began, our Hong Kong and Macau compatriots were the first to act, quickly heading to the mainland to make investments and develop businesses. You created a number of firsts, including the first joint venture company, the first jointly funded expressway, the first branch of a non-mainland bank, and the first joint venture 5-star hotel. I once visited the Zhongshan Hot Spring Resort, which was co-invested by Mr. Fok Ying Tung and Mr. Ho Hung Sun in the city of Zhongshan, Guangdong Province, in 1979, shortly after it opened. I was impressed by its facilities and services. Hotels on the mainland at the time were no comparison to it. Hong Kong and Macau compatriots not only fueled the mainland's economic development with their investments, but also caused a chain reaction, attracting a flood of international capital to the mainland. For many years, Hong Kong and Macau have remained the largest source of inbound investment on the mainland, which by the end of last year had added up to US $1.02 trillion, accounting for 54% of all inbound investments on the mainland. Second, a demonstration role in market economy. In the early years of reform and opening up, when many people on the mainland were burdened by the influence of the planned economy and clung to old thinking, people of vision from Hong Kong and Macau were the first to share with people on the mainland their experience of international standards and international markets. Many of them took on the role of mentors, offering counseling opinions on the reform of enterprises and the land system. As early as 1978, Mr. Liang Cheng-ying gave free lectures on Western systems of land economy and management in Shenzhen, Shanghai, and some other cities. In 1987, he co-authored a bidding document for land auctions in Chinese and English, which was the first such document in Shenzhen and in China too. Mr. Anthony Neo and Mrs. Cha Shi Ma Lung helped the mainland establish a regulatory system for stock markets with a symbolic annual salary of renminbi 1. Hong Kong and Macao compatriots have made important contributions to the development of a market economy on the mainland. Third, a catalytic role in institutional reform. Hong Kong and Macao were among primary factors in the mainland's decision to establish special economic zones. In 1979, the CPC Guangdong Provincial Committee proposed to the Central Committee that Guangdong, tapping into the advantage of its proximity to Hong Kong and Macao, could take the lead in opening up and could set up trade zones in Shenzhen, Zhuhai, and Shantou, hometown of many overseas Chinese. Hong Kong and Macao compatriots were engaged in the whole process of creating these zones, from general planning to drafting relevant laws and regulations and to the incubation and operation of individual programs. Fourth, a bridging role in the country's two-way opening up. In the early stage of reform and opening up, Hong Kong and Macao, with access to quotas for exports to Europe and the US and some other advantages, helped the mainland obtain a large number of export orders. By the mid-1990s, more than 80% of manufacturers in Hong Kong had moved to the Pearl River Delta and other parts of the mainland. All this stimulated a rapid growth of the export-oriented manufacturing industry and helped the mainland integrate into the global industrial chain. Meanwhile, Hong Kong and Macao also served as a conduit and platform for overseas financing and investment by mainland businesses. Through Hong Kong, many of these businesses got to know and acclimatized to the international market, learning how to survive and thrive. Today, nearly half of the companies listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange are from the mainland, making up close to 70% of the total exchange value. Fifth, the role of a testing ground. China piloted many of its opening up policies in Hong Kong and Macao first, gained experience, and then introduced them into other parts of the country step by step. This approach allowed the country to advance opening up while effectively controlling risks. It also gave Hong Kong and Macao a head start. Take the opening up of the service market on the mainland as an example. Guangdong Province and the two SARs were the first to start free trade and services between them within the framework of the mainland and Hong Kong Closer Economic Partnership Arrangement, CEPA, through which we gained experience for the nationwide introduction of a management system of pre-establishment national treatment, plus a negative list for foreign investment. The role of Hong Kong and Macao as a testing ground is more prominent in the opening up of the mainland's financial sector. The Shanghai-Hong Kong Stock Connect, Shenzhen-Hong Kong Stock Connect, and Bond Connect are all key steps taken by the mainland in recent years to open up its capital market. RMB internationalization also started in Hong Kong. The region is now the world's largest offshore renminbi business hub with the greatest variety of offshore renminbi products. Sixth, an exemplary role in urban management. Hong Kong and Macao have a wealth of experience in urban development management and public service, from which the mainland can learn. For instance, the Shanghai Hongqiao International Airport improved its operations soon after adopting the management philosophy of the Hong Kong International Airport. In 2011, it took first place among the most improved airports in the Skytrax World Airport Awards. Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and other cities on the mainland have also learned from Hong Kong in the construction and operation of subways. The first flying service team was organized on the mainland with the assistance of the government flying service of Hong Kong. By drawing upon the successful practice and experience of Hong Kong and Macao, the mainland has effectively improved its urban development and management. An ancient Chinese said, quote, "People drawn to each other by kindness and virtues make good friends. People who hold together with a meeting of minds make bosom friends. End quote. Footnote 1. Feng Meng Long, Stories to Caution the World. Jing Shi Tong Yan. Feng Meng Long, 1574 to 1646, was a writer and thinker of the Ming dynasty. End of footnote 1. It must be noted that Hong Kong and Macau compatriots have come to the mainland to invest and start businesses, not only because they have discerned business opportunities here, but also because they hope to see the mainland shake off poverty and China become stronger and more prosperous. You have donated to programs for the public good on the mainland, including those in education, technology, culture, healthcare, and sports, not just for doing good and sowing virtue, but also out of your fraternal bonds with fellow countrymen on the mainland. Sir Run Run Shaw donated more than Hong Kong $10 billion to programs for the public good on the mainland. Mr. Tin Ka Ping even sold his house to fund education programs on the mainland. He lived in a rented apartment in his later years. In the 2010 Yushu earthquake in Qinghai province, Hong Kong volunteer Wong Fuk Wing braved aftershocks to save others before he died in the earthquake. Every time the mainland is hit by massive natural disasters, our compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau would show great empathy for the victims and have always been the first to offer help. Time and again you have offered help and assistance in times of adversity to fellow countrymen on the mainland, proving that blood is thicker than water. In short, our compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau have both witnessed and participated in, both benefited from and contributed to, China's reform and opening up over the past 40 years. Along with people of the mainland, you have created a miracle. China's reform and opening up is a cause in which Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland complement each other with their respective strengths and develop together. It is a cause in which people in Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland work side by side with one heart and one mind. It is also a cause for Hong Kong and Macau to integrate into the overall development of the country and share the glory of a strong and prosperous motherland. People on a long and arduous journey will not stop and opt for an easy one before reaching the destination. Footnote 2. Han Ying. Han's Short Essays on Book of Songs. Han Shi, Wei Zhuan. Han Ying, circa 200 to 130 BC, was a scholar of the Western Han dynasty. End of footnote 2. Since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, we have championed reform and opening up and made unprecedented efforts to drive reforms on all fronts. We have made top-level designs and rolled out more than 1,600 reform programs in economic, political, cultural, social, eco-civilization, and other fields. Many of the reforms are unprecedented and are having a nationwide impact. They include the reform of the market system, the macroeconomic regulation system, the fiscal and tax systems, the financial system, state-owned enterprises, the judicial system, the education system, the ecological conservation system, party and state institutions, the supervision system, and of national defense, and the armed forces. I have been talking about reform and opening up on every major occasion, emphasizing that we must have the courage to tackle tough issues, navigate treacherous waters, and engage in painful self-adjustment to carry reform through. At the opening ceremony of both the Boao Forum for Asia Annual Conference and the first China International Import Expo earlier this year, I reiterated China's resolve to press on with reform. My recent inspection tour in Guangdong province was designed to send a strong message of continued reform and opening up in the new era. Reform and opening up is an ongoing process with no end point. I also emphasized that by continuing reform and opening up, China is to create new and greater miracles that will impress the world. The more complex the situation, the more steadfast we will be in reform and opening up. We will never regress to closed-door development. To realize national rejuvenation, China must advance with the times and keep pressing forward, as our ancestors said. If you can improve yourself in a day, do so each day, forever building on improvement. Socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era, as have China's reform and opening up and the practice of one country, two systems. One of the hallmarks of this new era is our engagement in reform and opening up, in which Hong Kong and Macau still have a special position, unique strengths, and an irreplaceable role to play. I hope Hong Kong and Macau compatriots will continue to participate in reform and opening up in the pioneering spirit and the spirit of patriotism. I hope you will follow the trend of the times, make the best use of the conditions, and achieve better development of your home regions through integration with the overall development of the country. Together, we will write a new chapter on the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. For Hong Kong and Macau, the policy of one country, two systems gives you the biggest strength. China's reform and opening up set the broadest stage for your development, and national strategies such as the Belt and Road Initiative and the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area present you new and important opportunities. We must fully understand and properly define the two SAR's position in China's reform and opening up in the new era. We will support you in seizing opportunities, cultivating new strengths, taking on new roles, seeking new development, and making new contributions. In this regard, I would like to express my hopes for the two regions as follows. First, I hope Hong Kong and Macau will support the country's all-round opening up more proactively. As the country opens up wider, Hong Kong and Macau will see their position and role grow stronger rather than diminish. I hope the two regions will continue to take the lead in attracting capital, technology, and talent for a quality development of the national economy and the new round of high-level opening up. In particular, Hong Kong and Macau should leverage their extensive international connections and sophisticated professional services on the one hand, and rely on the mainland's huge market, complete industrial system, and technological competitiveness on the other. In this way, Hong Kong may reinforce its status as the world financial shipping and trade hub and accelerate its ascension to an international science and technology innovation center, while Macau may intensify its efforts to develop itself into a world-class tourism and leisure center and to build a business and trade service platform between China and Portuguese-speaking countries. Thereby, the two SARs will become the beachheads in China's two-way opening up. Second, I hope Hong Kong and Macau will integrate their development into the overall development of the country more proactively. This integration is what the principle of one country, two systems and the program of reform and opening up in our times require. And it is also called for by the objective need of Hong Kong and Macau to explore new paths, create new space, and foster new drivers for their own development. Building the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area is a grand plan we have formulated on the basis of the overall and long-term interests of our country and a major policy to maintain long-lasting prosperity and stability in Hong Kong and Macau. Innovation is critical for the success of this endeavor. Within the framework of the one country, two systems principle and the SAR's basic laws, we should give full play to the combined strengths of Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau, introduce new systemic and institutional mechanisms, and boost the circulation of production factors. The Greater Bay Area spans 3 customs territories in one country that operate under 2 different social systems with 3 different currencies. This is unprecedented in the world. We must make bold experiments and blaze a new path. Meanwhile, Hong Kong and Macau should further improve their competitiveness and focus on cultivating new growth drivers. Third, I hope Hong Kong and Macau will participate in national governance more proactively. Since their return to the motherland, the 2 SARs have become part of the national governance system. Our compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau should improve local systems and mechanisms for enforcing the Constitution and the basic laws in line with the one country, two systems principle, and enhance their capacity for and improve their performance of governance. Meanwhile, you should pay close attention to the country's overall development, safeguard the country's political system, actively engage in furthering the country's economic, political, cultural, social, and eco-environmental progress, and conscientiously safeguard national security. Having many advantages on the world stage, the people of Hong Kong and Macau may support our country's participation in global governance in various ways. Fourth, I hope Hong Kong and Macau will promote international people-to-people exchanges more proactively. With cultural diversity, the 2 SARs may serve as key links in cultural exchanges between China and the rest of the world. Being international metropolises, Hong Kong and Macau may tap into their extensive connections with the outside world, spread the best of traditional Chinese culture, present China's principles and policies, and tell China's stories, including stories about the successful implementation of the one country, two systems principle. In doing so, Hong Kong and Macau will continue to play a special role in promoting cultural exchanges between the East and the West, facilitating mutual learning among civilizations, and building people-to-people bonds. There are many young entrepreneurs from Hong Kong and Macau in this room. I am glad to see you. A nation will prosper only when its young people are energetic. The young people of Hong Kong and Macau are the hope and future of the 2 regions. They are the new lifeblood for national development. Only when the young people of Hong Kong and Macau get strong can the 2 regions and the entire country be strong. We will create more opportunities for the young people in the 2 SARs and help them overcome difficulties in education, employment, and in starting their own business, thereby fostering a favorable social environment for them to realize their dreams. Today, we are closer than ever before to our goal of national rejuvenation. There is much that Hong Kong and Macau compatriots can contribute in realizing this goal, and by doing so you will add new glory to your home regions. As our ancestors said, on reaching the last leg of a journey, one is only halfway there. All Chinese should work in unity and persevere dauntlessly and steadfastly in reaching our target. I hope that people in Hong Kong and Macau will work together with those on the mainland to open up new prospects for one country, two systems, to create a better life for yourselves and to realize the Chinese dream. Strive for China's national rejuvenation and peaceful reunification. Speech at the meeting marking the 40th anniversary of the release of the message to compatriots in Taiwan, January 2nd, 2019. Comrades, my fellow Chinese, friends, Today we are meeting here to solemnly commemorate the 40th anniversary of the release of the Message to Compatriots in Taiwan by the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. As a new year begins, on behalf of the people on the mainland, I extend sincere greetings and best wishes to our fellow Chinese in Taiwan. It has been 70 years since Taiwan and the mainland were separated, since China entered the modern era. The emergence and evolution of the Taiwan question has been inextricably interwoven with the history of the Chinese nation. The Opium War of 1840 and ensuing wars of aggression launched by Western powers plunged China into a state of anguished turmoil, with its lands torn apart, and Taiwan fell under a foreign occupation that lasted for half a century. In wave after wave, we Chinese engaged in an epic struggle to resist foreign aggression, liberate the Chinese nation, and realize the country's reunification. Our fellow Chinese in Taiwan made a huge contribution to this struggle. In 1945, together with other peoples around the world, the Chinese people won victory in the war of resistance against Japanese aggression, a part of the global war against fascism. Taiwan was thus recovered and returned to China. It was not long, however, before the two sides of the Taiwan Straits fell into a state of protracted political confrontation due to the civil war in China and the interference of foreign forces. Since 1949, the Communist Party of China, the Chinese government, and the Chinese people have endeavored to pursue the historic mission of resolving the Taiwan question and realizing China's full reunification. Working with our fellow Chinese in Taiwan, we have de-escalated tense confrontation across the Taiwan Straits, improved cross-straits relations, set out on a path of peaceful development, and continually made breakthroughs in cross-straits relations. Over the past 70 years, responding to the longing of people on both sides of the Taiwan Straits, we have ended the estrangement between the two sides. We have achieved overall direct two-way three links and have initiated substantial exchanges, communication, and cooperation between the two sides. Footnote 1. The three links refer to mail, business, and transport. End of footnote 1. Cross-straits exchanges and cooperation have steadily expanded and grown increasingly closer, and mutual affinity has deepened. Our fellow Chinese in Taiwan have made a major contribution to the mainland's reform and opening up, and they in turn have shared the mainland's development opportunities. Over the past 70 years, acting in a spirit of seeking common ground while setting aside differences and on the basis of the One China principle, the two sides have reached the 1992 consensus that both sides of the Taiwan Straits belong to one China and will work together towards national reunification. The two sides have thus initiated consultations and negotiation and promoted cross-straits party-to-party exchanges. We have opened up a path for the peaceful growth of cross-straits relations and realized a historic meeting between leaders of both sides, thus elevating cross-straits political interactions to a new height. Over the past 70 years, keeping in mind the changes over time in the growth of cross-straits relations, we have proposed the policy of seeking a peaceful solution to the Taiwan question and established the fundamental guideline of peaceful reunification based on the well-conceived principle of one country, two systems. With this, we have responded to the call of our times in the new era, namely, to promote the peaceful growth of cross-straits relations and unite our fellow Chinese in Taiwan to strive for our country's rejuvenation and peaceful reunification. Over the past 70 years, holding high the banner of peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit, and on the basis of the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, we have forged friendship and strengthened cooperation with other countries and consolidated the international community's commitment to the One China principle. More and more countries and people have gained a better understanding of China's position on reunification and given their support to it. Over the past 70 years, bearing in mind the overall and long-term interests of the Chinese nation, we have stood firm in safeguarding China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Rallying all the Chinese people around us, we have resolutely defeated all attempts to create 2 Chinas, one China, one Taiwan, or Taiwan independence, and have achieved major victories in the fight against separatist activities for Taiwan independence. As the evolution of cross-straits relations attests, no force or people can ever change the historical fact and principle that Taiwan is part of China and that the 2 sides belong to one and the same China. We people on both sides of the Taiwan Straits are Chinese and share a natural affinity and national identity built of kinship and mutual assistance, a fact that can never be altered by any force or any people. The tide of our times, cross-straits relations moving towards peace and stability and continuing to move forward, is a tide that cannot be stopped by any force or any people. The historical trend towards a stronger China, national rejuvenation, and reunification cannot be stopped by any force or any people. Comrades, my fellow Chinese, friends, by reviewing the past, we can draw inspiration for both the present and the future. Our country must be reunified and will surely be reunified. This is a conclusion drawn from the evolution of cross-straits relations over the past 7 decades. It is also crucial to the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation in the new era. We Chinese on both sides of the Taiwan Straits, all of us Chinese at home and abroad, should jointly uphold the national interests, follow the historical trend, and work together for the peaceful growth of cross-straits relations. First, we should work together to promote China's rejuvenation and achieve its peaceful reunification. The rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and the reunification of our country are a surging popular trend. They are where our greater national interest lies, and they are what the people hope to see. We face each other just across a strip of water, yet our 2 sides are still far apart. The fact that we have still not been reunified is a wound left by history on the Chinese nation. We Chinese on both sides should work together to achieve reunification and heal this wound. All our fellow Chinese in Taiwan are members of the Chinese nation. You should be proud of your Chinese identity, fully consider the position and role of Taiwan in China's rejuvenation, and pursue both the full reunification and rejuvenation of China as an honorable cause. The future of Taiwan lies in China's reunification, and the well-being of the people in Taiwan hinges on the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. The peaceful growth of cross-straits relations is the right path for safeguarding peace, promoting common development, and benefiting people on both sides. Thus, the peaceful growth of cross-straits relations is something people on both sides should jointly promote, safeguard, and enjoy. The Chinese dream is a dream shared by both sides of the Taiwan Straits. Only China's rejuvenation and prosperity can bring lives of plenty and happiness to us on both sides. As the Chinese nation moves towards rejuvenation, our fellow Chinese in Taiwan should certainly not miss out. We people on both sides should join hands to fulfill the Chinese dream, shoulder the responsibility and share the glory of national rejuvenation. The Taiwan question originated in a weak and ravaged China, and it is certain to end with China's rejuvenation. Second, we should explore a two-systems solution to the Taiwan question and enrich our efforts towards peaceful reunification. The vision of peaceful reunification and one country, two systems is the best way to realize China's reunification. It embodies Chinese wisdom. Thriving by embracing each other, takes full account of Taiwan's reality, and is conducive to long-term stability in Taiwan after reunification. Difference in systems should not be an obstacle to reunification. It is certainly no excuse for separation. The principle of one country, two systems was proposed precisely to accommodate Taiwan's actual conditions and to safeguard the interests and well-being of our fellow Chinese in Taiwan. In terms of how the principle should be carried out, we will fully consider the situation in Taiwan, give full consideration to the views and proposals from all walks of life on both sides, and fully accommodate the interests and sentiments of our fellow Chinese in Taiwan. Provided that China's sovereignty, security, and development interests are ensured after peaceful reunification, Taiwan's social system and its way of life will be fully respected, and the private property, religious beliefs, and lawful rights and interests of our fellow Chinese in Taiwan will be fully protected. We people on both sides of the Taiwan Straits are of one family. Issues between our two sides are domestic affairs, and it is therefore natural that they should be discussed and resolved by family members. Peaceful reunification means achieving reunification through consultation and discussion as equals. The long-standing political differences between the two sides are the root cause that affects the steady growth of cross-straits relations. But we should not allow this problem to be passed down from one generation to the next. Our both sides must live up to our responsibility, to our nation, and to future generations. We should put our heads together, be creative, reduce differences, and seek common ground. Doing so will enable us to end political antagonism at an early date, ensure lasting peace across the Taiwan Straits, and agree on a vision for China's reunification, so that our future generations can live and grow up in a shared home with peace, stability, prosperity, and dignity. On the basis of abiding by the One China principle, there will be no obstacles in exchanges between political parties and groups in Taiwan and on the mainland. When dialogue replaces confrontation, cooperation replaces dispute, and win-win mindset replaces zero-sum mentality, cross-straits relations will progress steadily and move far. We are ready to engage in broad exchanges of views with all parties, groups, or individuals in Taiwan regarding political issues between the two sides and the promotion of China's peaceful reunification in order to forge social consensus and advance political negotiations. Here, we wish to make a solemn proposal on the common political foundation of adhering to the 1992 consensus and opposing Taiwan independence. Representatives can be recommended by all political parties and all sectors of society on both sides, and they will engage in extensive and in-depth democratic consultations on cross-straits relations and the future of the nation, and work towards institutional arrangements for promoting the peaceful growth of cross-straits relations. Third, we should abide by the One China principle and ensure the prospects for peaceful reunification. Although our two sides have yet to be reunified, the sovereignty and territory of China has never been severed, and the fact that the mainland and Taiwan belong to one and the same China has never changed. The One China principle is the political foundation of cross-straits relations. When we adhere to this principle, cross-straits relations will improve and grow, and our fellow Chinese in Taiwan will benefit. However, if we deviate from it, cross-straits relations will become strained and volatile, and the interests of our fellow Chinese in Taiwan will be harmed. China's reunification is a historic trend and the right path, while Taiwan independence goes against the tide of history and is a path that can only lead to a dead end. Our fellow Chinese in Taiwan have a glorious, patriotic tradition and share a close kinship with us. We remain committed to the principle of placing our hopes on the people of Taiwan. We will continue, as ever, to respect, care about, work with, and rely on them. And we will do our utmost to help them overcome difficulties and meet their needs. Our fellow Chinese in Taiwan, regardless of political affiliation, religious belief, social status, or origin of birth, whether civilian or military, you must clearly see that Taiwan independence will only bring disaster. You should resolutely oppose it and join hands with us to create the bright prospects of peaceful reunification. We are ready to create vast space for peaceful reunification, but we will definitely not leave any room for separatist activities in any form. As Chinese, we should not fight each other. We will work with the greatest sincerity and exert our utmost efforts to achieve peaceful reunification, because this works best for the people on both sides and for our whole nation. We do not renounce the use of force and reserve the option of taking all necessary measures. This is to guard against external interference and a tiny number of separatists and their activities for Taiwan independence. In no way does it target our fellow Chinese in Taiwan. We people on both sides should work together to pursue peace, protect peace, and enjoy peace. Fourth, we should promote integrated development of the two sides and cement the foundation for peaceful reunification. People on both sides of the Taiwan Straits share the bonds of kinship just as loved ones wish each other well. We Chinese should help each other. We treat our fellow Chinese in Taiwan as equals and will continue paving the way for them to benefit first from the mainland's development opportunities and ensure that our fellow Chinese and enterprises from Taiwan receive the same treatment as those of the mainland, thus giving them a greater sense of fulfillment. After peaceful reunification, Taiwan will enjoy lasting peace, and the people there will live in peace and contentment. Backed by a strong motherland, our fellow Chinese in Taiwan will enjoy better lives and have more opportunities for development, and they will have more confidence and a greater sense of security and dignity in the international community. We should take active steps to institutionalize cross-straits economic cooperation and create a common market for the two sides, so as to increase momentum for development and vitality of cooperation and strengthen the Chinese economy. We on the two sides should promote connectivity wherever necessary, including trade and economic cooperation, building infrastructure, developing energy and resources, and sharing industrial standards. We can start by supplying water, electricity, and gas from coastal areas in Fujian province to Kinmen and Matsu and building bridges between them. We should promote cooperation in culture, education, and healthcare, and the sharing of social security and public resources. And we should support neighboring areas or areas with similar conditions on the two sides in providing equal, universal, and accessible basic public services. Fifth, we should forge closer bonds of heart and mind between people on both sides and strengthen our joint commitment to peaceful reunification. The soul of a nation is molded by its culture. We on the mainland and in Taiwan share the same roots, culture, and ethnic identity. It is the Chinese culture that has instilled vitality in us and given us a sense of belonging. The key to kinship lies in mutual understanding. No matter what interference and obstruction we may encounter, exchanges and cooperation between our people on both sides must never be hampered, diminished, or stopped. We people on both sides should together pass on the best traditional Chinese culture and ensure that it evolves and grows in new and creative ways. We should engage in exchanges and mutual learning, promote dialogue and inclusiveness, enhance empathy, deepen mutual understanding, strengthen mutual trust, and increase our shared sense of identity. We should maintain our bonds of kinship and shared values, use the right approach to our history, our nation, and our country to raise the awareness of younger generations and keep alive the great spirit of our nation. Between loved ones, there is no knot of perception that cannot be untied. With perseverance, we are sure to forge closer bonds of heart and mind between people on both sides. Supporting and pursuing reunification is a righteous cause of the Chinese nation, and this commitment should be recognized by all of us. Our country will always stand firm behind patriots working for reunification. It is our sincere hope that all our fellow Chinese in Taiwan will treasure peace as they do the gift of sight, pursue reunification with the same zeal with which they pursue a better life, and play an active part in advancing the just cause of China's peaceful reunification. The young are the hope of the country and the future of the nation. Young people on both sides should shoulder responsibilities, forge solidarity and friendship, and work together for a better future. Young people from Taiwan are welcome to pursue and fulfill their dreams on the mainland. We Chinese on both sides must be united and work together to seek happiness for ourselves and create a bright future for our nation. Comrades, my fellow Chinese, friends, over the years, our fellow Chinese in Hong Kong, Macau, and overseas have shown understanding for and supported the great cause of reunification and have contributed greatly to this cause. I hope that you will remain committed and further contribute to the peaceful growth of cross-straits relations and China's peaceful reunification. Comrades, my fellow Chinese, friends, there is only one China on this earth. The One China principle is a generally recognized norm in international relations, and it represents a general consensus of the international community. The international community has extended understanding and support for the Chinese people's just cause of opposing separatist activities towards Taiwan independence and striving for China's reunification. The Chinese government expresses its appreciation for this understanding and support. We as Chinese must decide our own affairs. The Taiwan question is an internal affair that involves China's core interests and the Chinese people's national sentiments, and no external interference in this issue will be tolerated. China's reunification will not harm any country's legitimate interests, including its economic interests in Taiwan. On the contrary, it will bring the world more opportunities for development and create more positive momentum for the prosperity and stability of the Asia Pacific and the rest of the world. Indeed, it will make a greater contribution to building a global community of shared future, to the cause of global peace and development, and to the cause of human progress. Comrades, my fellow Chinese friends, we cannot choose our past, but we can steer the current course and shape the future. The new era is an era for the Chinese nation to achieve major development and major successes. It is also an era for the people on both sides of the Taiwan Straits to pursue the same goal. The path ahead may not be always smooth, but when we stand and work together, we can surely create a promising future for the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, and we can surely achieve the great cause of China's reunification. Speech on the 20th anniversary of Macao's return to China and the inauguration of the fifth term government of the Macao Special Administrative Region. December 20th, 2019. My fellow compatriots, dear friends, not long ago we held a grand celebration of the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Today we have gathered here with great joy to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Macao's return to the motherland. First of all, on behalf of the central government and people of all ethnic groups, I wish to extend cordial greetings to all residents in Macao and offer warm congratulations to Mr. Ho Yat-sung, the fifth chief executive of the Macao Special Administrative Region, MSAR, all principal officials and the members of the Executive Council who have just been sworn in. I also wish to express heartfelt thanks to all fellow Chinese at home and abroad and foreign friends who have taken an active interest in Macao's development and given their support. 20 years ago today, Macao, having endured many years of separation, returned to the embrace of the motherland, and the Macao Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China was established. This marked the beginning of a historic era for Macao. Over the past 2 decades, with the strong support of the central government and the mainland, and under the leadership of chief executives Ho Hao-wah and Chui Sai-on, the MSAR government and people from every sector of Macao have worked closely together to usher in Macao's best period of development in its history. A shining chapter has been written in the successful application of one country, two systems with Macao characteristics. In the past 20 years since its return to the motherland, Macao has established a solid constitutional order on the basis of China's constitution and the MSAR basic law and improved its governance system. The MSAR has firmly upheld the central authority's overall jurisdiction and properly exercised its high degree of autonomy. It has smoothly completed the enactment of local legislation necessary to apply relevant national laws, including Article 23 of the Basic Law and the National Anthem Law, and set up a committee for safeguarding national security. The MSAR has effectively fulfilled its constitutional responsibility for upholding China's national sovereignty, security, and development interests. Its executive authorities, legislature, and judiciary have performed their duties in strict accordance with the law. They have properly handled their mutual relations and consciously upheld the authority of the chief executive. In so doing, they have ensured the smooth operation of the executive-led system with the chief executive at its center. As a result, the MSAR has made orderly progress in democracy, and Macao residents' extensive rights and freedoms under the law have been fully guaranteed. In the past 20 years, since its return to the motherland, Macao has achieved phenomenal economic development and a continuous improvement in its people's lives. Steady progress has been made in establishing Macao as one center, one platform, one base. Footnote 1. This refers to a global tourism and leisure center, a service platform for commercial and trade cooperation between China and Portuguese-speaking countries, and a cultural exchange and cooperation base with Chinese culture as the mainstream and the coexistence of multiple cultures. End of footnote 1. Macao's per capita GDP has jumped to the second highest in the world. Significant results have been achieved in its appropriate economic diversification. Emerging industries such as conventions and exhibitions, traditional Chinese medicine, and Macao-specific financial services are booming. The city has taken an active part in the Belt and Road Initiative and the development of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macao Greater Bay Area. Welfare benefits have risen substantially. A host of policies, including free education and healthcare and two-tier social security, have benefited the whole community. Macao residents now have a greater sense of fulfillment and happiness. In the past 20 years, since its return to the motherland, Macao has enjoyed social stability and harmony and a fusion of diverse cultures. Inadequate law and order, a problem that plagued Macao before its return, was swiftly addressed. This city is now one of the safest in the world. Close communication has been maintained between the MSAR government and citizens, between different sectors of society, and between different ethnic communities. People from all walks of life express their wishes in a rational manner through sound mechanisms of coordination. On this basis, Macao has both contributed to Chinese culture and embraced diverse cultures. My fellow compatriots, dear friends, Macao's accomplishments in the past 2 decades have captured the world's attention. Though limited in size, Macao plays a unique role in the practice of one country, two systems. 4 important things can be learned from Macao's successful application of the policy. First, we must always have rock-solid confidence in one country, two systems. Our fellow compatriots in Macao genuinely support the one country, two systems policy and see it as the best institutional arrangement to ensure Macao's long-term prosperity and stability. In implementing the policy, the MSAR government and all sectors of Macao have endeavored to both safeguard our country's sovereignty, security, and development interests and promote Macao's long-term prosperity and stability. Firm and resolute, Macao has never wavered in the face of temporary complications or become distracted by external interference. On the contrary, Macao has excelled in seizing the opportunities brought by major national development strategies and policies. Macao has thus gained strong momentum and made tremendous progress by taking its proper place in the overall development of the country. Macao's successful experience proves that as long as we uphold one country, two systems, and act upon it, the viability and strength of this policy will be on full display. Second, we must always stay on the right course of one country, two systems. Our fellow compatriots in Macao fully recognize the one country principle as the premise and precondition of two systems. They unequivocally uphold the constitutional order established by the Constitution and the basic law, respect the socialist system practiced in the main body of the country, and correctly handle issues concerning the relationship between the central authorities and the MSAR. The executive, legislative, and judiciary branches of the MSAR have upheld the central authority's overall jurisdiction while enjoying a high degree of autonomy. They have resolutely safeguarded the One China principle and the authority of the central leadership and the basic law. Macao's successful experience shows that the principle of one country, two systems must be applied without deviation or distortion to ensure its steady and long-term progress. Third, we must always maintain a strong sense of mission and responsibility in implementing the one country, two systems principle. Our fellow compatriots in Macao have a sense of being the masters of their own affairs and always keep Macao's fundamental interests and the country's overall interests firmly in mind. They have made it their common mission to ensure the success of one country, two systems, Macao people governing Macao, and a high degree of autonomy. They see it as an integral contribution to realizing the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. The MSAR government has led people from all sectors of society in actively exploring a governance model and a development path that are suited to the realities of Macao. A range of policy measures have been introduced, including consolidating the foundations and developing steadily, comprehensively improving the quality of life of Macao residents, preserving heritage while pursuing innovation to promote social harmony and standing united to achieve common goals and shared prosperity. Intensive efforts have been made to focus on economic growth, effectively raise living standards, steadfastly uphold the rule of law, progressively advance democracy, and promote social inclusiveness and harmony. These measures have made Macao young and dynamic again. Macao's successful experience demonstrates that our fellow compatriots in Macao, as masters of their own affairs, are fully capable of meeting the challenges of our time and achieving success in governing, building, and developing the MSAR. Fourth, we must always cement the social and political foundations for one country, two systems. Our fellow compatriots in Macao have a tradition of loving the motherland and a strong sense of national identity, belonging, and pride. This is the most important reason for the success of one country, two systems in Macao. The MSAR government and the people of all sectors of Macao are committed to carrying forward this tradition and firmly implementing the principle that Macao must be governed by Macao people with patriots as the mainstay. The MSAR governing institutions are mainly composed of those who love the country. The ranks of people who love the country and Macao are expanding and growing in strength by the day. Love for the country and Macao as a core value predominates in Macao. Thanks to the leadership of the chief executive, earnest efforts by the MSAR government agencies, and wide participation of all sectors, patriotic education is carried out with much success in all types of schools in Macao, planting the seeds of national identity and patriotism deep in the hearts and minds of the young. Macao's successful experience teaches us the importance of continuously cementing and expanding the social and political foundations required for one country, two systems, and of achieving the broadest possible unity based on love for the country and Macao. This provides the fundamental safeguards for continued progress along the right track of one country, two systems. My fellow compatriots, dear friends, the journey of one country, two systems is long and hard. The world is undergoing a scale of change unseen in a century, and Macao is facing new internal and external dynamics. In this context, the new MSAR government and all sectors of Macao need to stand taller and look farther, brace for potential risks, even when the going is good, break new ground while keeping to the right path, and be results-oriented and hardworking. I encourage you to build on what Macao has accomplished and take all undertakings in the MSAR to the next level. For this, let me share with you 4 expectations. First, keep abreast of the times and further enhance the quality of governance. The ancient Chinese understood that, quote, those with a sound grasp of governance will leave no problems unresolved and no defects unrepaired, end quote. Footnote 2. Huan Quan, Discourses on Salt and Iron, Yan Tie Lun. Huan Quan, dates unknown, was an official of the Western Han Dynasty, 206 BC to AD 25, end of footnote 2. Macao needs to adapt to the new dynamics and requirements of modern social governance, advance reform in public administration and other systems, enhance efficacy in administration, and modernize its governance. It needs to take the rule of law as the basic principle of governing the MSAR and continue to improve the systems and mechanisms for governing Macao in accordance with the law. It needs to harness science and technology, move faster towards a smart city, and create innovative models of government administration and social governance through the application of big data and other information technologies. The objective is to improve government decision-making and make social governance better targeted and public services more efficient. Second, break new ground to better realize sustained and sound economic development. A long-term perspective must be adopted when drawing up development plans with the goal of becoming one center, one platform, one base in mind. Macao needs to develop well-conceived plans, adopt a holistic and coordinated approach, and implement the plans progressively. On the basis of Macao's realities and through rigorous feasibility studies, the MSAR needs to identify the main focus and key projects for appropriately diversifying its economy. It needs to take a multi-pronged strategy in terms of policy, human resources, financial support, and resolve the most difficult issues through synergy. Macao needs to carve out its role in national strategies, seize the opportunities provided by the Belt and Road Initiative and the development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, better leverage its own strengths, and sharpen its competitive edge. What is particularly important is to ensure good collaboration with Zhuhai in developing Hengqin, which will create immense space and new momentum for Macao's long-term development. Third, continue to put people first and better ensure and improve their living standards. It must be clearly understood that the goal of development is to make people's lives better. Thus, the MSAR needs to adopt institutional arrangements that are fairer, more equitable, and beneficial to all, so that the fruits of development can be shared by all in the community. To foster a better living environment and higher quality of life, Macao needs to combine its development needs with the people's needs and improve public infrastructure relating to transport, energy, environmental protection, information, and urban safety and security. The MSAR needs to actively respond to public concerns, address prominent issues in housing, healthcare, and care for the elderly, and scale up assistance and support to the vulnerable. It is also important to further develop education and put in place the best possible education system so as to create a more conducive environment for children and young people to grow and live to their full potential. Fourth, persist in an inclusive approach and further promote social harmony and stability. The core value of loving the motherland and Macao needs to be upheld and encouraged so that everyone is mobilized to contribute to Macao's development. Community organizations in Macao should be strengthened, and those that embrace the core values can serve as bridges between the government and the people. Macao's tradition of valuing unity and consultation must be preserved. Matters should be addressed through consultation and settled through coordination. Societal problems must be properly addressed for the greater good of social harmony. As a place where Chinese and Western cultures meet, Macao is well positioned to promote international, people-to-people exchanges and mutual learning between cultures. My fellow compatriots, dear friends, I wish to emphasize that with the return of Hong Kong and Macao, the handling of affairs in the two special administrative regions is strictly China's internal business. No external force has any right to dictate to us. The government and the people of China have a rock-firm determination to uphold our national sovereignty, security, and development interests. We will never tolerate any external interference in Hong Kong and Macao affairs. My fellow compatriots, dear friends, in the early 1980s, when Deng Xiaoping and other leaders of his generation put forward the great vision of one country, two systems, they were of the firm belief that it was the right policy and would work, succeed, and win public support. For the past 30 years, the success of one country, two systems has won widespread recognition throughout the world. Naturally, steady improvements are needed in the institutional arrangements as the policy continues to be applied. We have every confidence that we Chinese, including our fellow compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau, have the wisdom and ability to better practice and develop one country, two systems, carry out the necessary improvements in institutional arrangements, and achieve still greater success in governing the two special administrative regions. The rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is unstoppable, and the common development and prosperity of Hong Kong and Macau, together with the mainland of China, can foresee an ever brighter future. Thank you. End of part 16.